In this course, I want to teach you new features in JavaScript ES6. So what is ES6? ES6 is the sixth and major edition of the ECMA script language specification standard. Actually, it brought significant changes to the JavaScript language. It added new features such as class, module, and block-scoped variables. So let us start our journey into the world of ES6. The first new feature in ES6 I want to talk about is the block-scoped variables. Before ES6, the only way to declare a variable was the var keyword, but now we have let as well. Let's see what the differences between them. The variables declared with var keyword are function scoped and hoisted, but variables with let are block scoped and not hoisted. But what is block scoping? Let's see that. It means that between a pair of curly brackets as a block, a new scope is created. Therefore, if you declare a variable with let inside that scope, for example, inside a loop, it exists only inside that block and does not exist outside of it. So let's have a look inside this code. You see that with let in ES6, I is no longer available after for block, but with var as in ES5, even after for loop finishes, I is still available and has values. Actually, var is function scope, so the scope of I is the entire document. So as you see, after for loop finishes in ES6, the value of I is undefined, but here the value of I is 5 because 5 causes this for loop to finish. That is what I meant by block scoped. But what does hoisted mean? In JS, all variables and function declarations are moved or hoisted to the top of their current scope, regardless of where they are defined. There are two types of hoisting: function hoisting and variable hoisting. In simple terms, hoisting means as long as a function or variable is declared, they can be used after or before they are defined. So what is function hoisting? Functions that are defined using function are automatically hoisted. That is, they can be called even before they are defined. For example, in this code, hello world is defined, but it is called before even it is defined, and that is totally okay. You see the result, console.log hello world. You see that hello world is printed and there is no error. So that is the notion of function hoisting. This is because the function declaration is automatically hoisted or moved to the top. Okay, so as if it is like you see you move it like that to the top. So that is totally okay. It is what is automatically done. A similar thing happens when a variable is declared using var. Variable declaration is also hoisted automatically to the top of its scope. That is, if a variable is declared inside a for loop or function, it will be moved to the top of that function. Similarly, if it is declared outside any function, it will become global because it is hoisted to the top. Let's have a look at this code. you see that I is declared in line 3 but can be used in line 1 and 2. That is because the declaration will be hoisted or moved to the top of the scope. That is why it is totally okay, and I can be printed out like this. You can see the result console.log I. But the same thing is not happening when the ES6 let keyword is being used. For example, let, and you see that cannot access I before initialization. That is the difference between var and let being hoisted and not hoisted. But be careful, JavaScript only hoists declarations and not initializations. For example, in this code, you see that the value of str is undefined because it is being initialized after being declared in line 7. So what happens is that the declarations will go to the top of the scope like that, but the initialization does not go to the top. So that is why str is undefined. So if you put another str, another console log here, you see that it is defined here and it is not undefined. As I told you before, the let keyword does not support hoisting, so you see that mystr in this code is not defined, so the error is cannot access mystr before initialization. Actually, this line of code, this is the line of code that generates this error. So if I comment that out, you see that mystr is 12 or anything that you assign to it. For example, myString. In ES6, we can define constants using const keyword. Constants are read-only, so you cannot change their value after initialization. So they are block scoped like let. That means that they cannot be hoisted. In this block of code, you see that we tried to assign something to the constant str, and you see that there is an error, assignment to constant variable. That means that constants are read-only, so you cannot assign something else to them after being initialized. However, we can change properties of the object and elements of an array declared using const. For example, look at this code. So the car is defined as a const, but the properties can be changed like this. Car.year equals 2020. So you see that console log gives 2020, but before that the car.year is 2019, which is the initial value like that. Or in this block of code, you see that this array is defined as a constant, but we managed to change the value of one of its elements like that to equal gh. So you see that console.log gives us gh.